This is actually one thing that Larry and I have fought over. Because play should be banned. If that could happen, Kyle Shanahan should figure it the out and go win a Super Bowl with it. If it's that easy, that's what should happen.
You want to talk about what's fair and unfair? You want to talk about what is not really the sport?
Right now, the Green Bay Packers have put forth to the NFL a suggestion that they ban the brotherly shove, the tush push in Philadelphia. As this live streams resident Eagles fan, I'm sure you have a lot to say about this here, Sam. Let me just say that I hate when you need to change a rule to affect an on-field strategy. If you want to ban the tush push, play better on first, second, and third down and quit letting the Eagles have fourth and short. Okay, there is 3 downs in which your defense can actually ban the tush push from being a good play. I don't like it when strategy is outlawed, when anyone could do this, but not everybody does it. So that means it's clearly a skill. It is not just something anyone could do. I don't like any rule changes. The NFL changes too many rules. Anyways, as an Eagles fan, you got to be laughing at this, Sammy.
Let's look at this from the Packers' perspective, first of all. Now, you lost twice to the Eagles last season, so I understand that hurts, and your season ended against the Eagles. And this all came from, this was actually a Q&A with Murphy, with their CEO, Murphy, who basically said, this is not a football play. Can we look at that statement, first of all?
Why?
I'm sorry, football's not a tough sport about lining up, hat on hat, strength on strength, weight room. These are not terms that are synonymous with football. How about goal line push? How about even quarterback sneak, which is this is a version of that. What is not football about this play where you have the offensive line versus the defensive line in a tug of war saying who can get more inches on your side to make this a first down for your team or a first down for our team? This is as football as anything else that we see.
Right.
And
it's a definition of a football play.
Nobody looking at this play thinks this looks out of place. It does not. It looks like strength. And again, what is the number one term you see? A man moving another man. That's and we don't even have to say that term anymore. Okay, man versus man, but a person moving another person is essentially what football comes down to. Can I win on that line where we are creating protection for our quarterback, or are we allowing the other team to get to our quarterback? And this is simply that strength on strength. So I hate that we know that it came from the Packers, because to me, it's so easy to dismiss now because it looks like someone who is saying it's sort of, we're upset because we lost.
It looks sour grapes.
We're upset because we lost. And if this really were numerous teams saying we don't want it, okay, then maybe if there really was a petition signed, maybe, and we'll see how the vote goes on this, because we will find out what the vote is, maybe right there, and that's the combine. But this will not get. Look, it's also not injuring players. Nobody is getting hurt, and in fact, look how many other teams tried to duplicate this, Damon. Teams are trying to. Buffalo does a pretty good job with it. They don't operate at the clip the Eagles do, but Josh Allen is running this play numerous times, including in an AFC Championship game where he came up a little short, although I guess we can argue whether we're short or not. But this strategy applies to any team. And by the way, the Giants hurt themselves trying to do it, which is just laughable. Justin Herbert basically told his coaching staff, I don't want to try that anymore because I hated it. He tried it. It failed. And he said, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. Hurts has an advantage. This is the advantage of having a quarterback who squats 600 pounds, who also sits next to now a running back who squats for 600 pounds. Okay, yes, this is that play that works for them. I love what you said about just don't show up with fourth and short. Keep your defense out of fourth and short, third and short, and then there is no tush push.
Right.
But I'm sorry, too many teams are trying to figure out how to run this themselves, that this cannot be. And it's not illegal. Now, what Murphy did say, which I'd like to dissect, maybe there was a rule at some point in the NFL about pushing players. And apparently the league came off of that rule because it was too difficult for the officials to determine whether or not someone was being pushed. So it was so they had to sort of get away from that. So now there are specific rules about where you have to line up for this play. Well, guess what? The Eagles have done it. And ask Frankie Louvu if he understands how to stop it at this point, since he just jumped up at the line.
This isn't USC trying to push
Matt Leinart.
You're trying to push Matt Leinart into Notre Dame's end zone.
Right.
This is a little bit different than that. And again, to me, if you want to stop it, you have 3 downs to prevent this play from being run. People are asking, Damon, you and Larry fighting. This is actually one thing that Larry and I have fought over, because the play should be banned.
Really?
He's like, the sport of football is about, it's a television game and it's not entertaining. It's a bad play. Like, what happens if a team could tush push? It's all the way down the field.
But you can't. But you can't. You can't.
I said, if that could happen, Kyle Shanahan should figure it the fuck out and go win a Super Bowl with it. If it's that easy, that's what should happen.
That's hilarious. And that's very true, Damon. And the teams that can run this would if they could. And there is schematics behind this play. Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach for the Eagles, he has come up with a way that their line collapses that space for Hurts. And if you notice, it's not always exactly in the same place, although it does go behind Dickerson much of the time to the left, but it's not always that. And it opens up great plays. They didn't connect on it this year, but there was an amazing fake where they ran a deep post to A.J. Brown, and it just happened to be that they didn't connect on the pass. But
didn't read the right book that day.
Exactly, that's all right. Outer excellence, not inner excellence on that route, but that's okay. It should remain. I love that you and Larry are on opposite ends of it, but you're right. And by the way, who would use this more than Kyle Shanahan? If Shanahan had figured, if he knew this, he would have this in his back pocket. Nobody loves an offensive line scheme more than Kyle Shanahan. So I'm sorry. Deep down, the league respects this. They simply do. And Murphy said, yeah, this is Bart Starr had been using the quarterback sneak. It works just fine for him. Really? It doesn't. By the way, the quarterback sneak doesn't work for anybody. And that's why the Eagles have an advantage here. And I'm sorry. It feels like spilled milk.
If I were in charge of all, Damon, you're sports czar, the very first thing I would do would be declaring a moratorium on any rule changes or conference realignment or like sports is evolving and changing so much. We don't need a new division, a new conference, and a new rule book every freaking year. And the NFL, again, I think it's important to be quick to address problems when you see them. But I also think that the NFL is so much wrapped up in a classic case of they come up with an answer and then they start looking for a problem. What is going on right now with the NFL wanting to tinker with overtime rules again?
I love this.
As I have always seen it, if you want to win a game, do it in regulation. Going into overtime should come with an inherent risk to it. You've allowed the game to get to this point, which means you're not nearly on as good footing as you used to be. I always thought that the sudden death first field goal wins was fair and square. I had no problem with it. I never said that this is unfair. Again, make a play defensively to prevent what everyone says is an easy to kick field goal now that field goals are pretty much automatic from 55 and in. Okay, all right, but so you want then the opportunity to answer that first field goal? Okay. I'm not going to argue against more football in overtime. So if okay, I can do that. I can do that. Now, what do they want to do, Sam? What is the latest that they're proposing?
That's why this rule was changed. And ironic, this rule was not changed the season before when, guess what? Mahomes was beat by Brady. Same thing. Brady beat Mahomes in an AFC championship game on a walk-off touchdown to Gronkowski, where everyone thought Mahomes had outplayed Brady that day. The rule wasn't changed for that. For all the conspiracies about the Chiefs, by the way, the rule was not changed then for Mahomes. It was changed later when people were sad for Josh Allen because he didn't get a chance to get the ball again in that overtime. So, okay, do we just want to make, just put the Bills in that AFC championship game, which, by the way, that wouldn't have even put them in the Super Bowl. That would have only gotten them against the Bengals in that AFC championship game. So do what you want with that. Let me make this so simple. And Damon, you and I, we love hockey. Sudden death is a great term. I can't stand, soccer to me should always be golden goal. I just think sudden death, that overtime, you said it, the word is risk. Overtime should be risky to the audience And to the participants, it is risky. This could end over time. We're spending more time than we anticipated. That means it can end soon. That means it can end in a flash. But here's what it comes down to. You want to talk about what's fair and unfair? You want to talk about what is not really the sport? Flipping a f***ing coin. Get rid of the coin flip. That's what it's about. All you have to do is designate going into any game that either the home team, the away team, the team that won the coin flip at the beginning of the game that's deferring, and that means they will get the ball first in overtime. If you play an entire fourth quarter knowing that you are going to receive the ball first or are not going to receive the ball first in overtime, it changes your entire strategy. You can play out the fourth quarter knowing, just like when you play the end of a first half knowing that you are receiving the kickoff or not, the same should apply for overtime. Now you can defend a certain way or be aggressive on offense with 30 seconds left because you know you are or are not receiving the ball first in overtime. Just do away with the idea that all of a sudden these grown men who have battled it out are now going to flip a coin and say tails and heads. Why are we doing that? What place does that stand on a football field?
The team that gained the most total yards receives the ball.
Here, just
award it to some element of football that had been played, not just a random flip of a coin.
Sam, home field advantage. By the way, in baseball, we know who's going to be. We know which team gets the opportunity to bat last, right? It doesn't change when we get to extra innings. Oh, now we can win on a walk-off and you can't. No. We knew that at the beginning of the game that the home team doesn't need to then get 3 outs to win the game. We know that there can be a walk-off because that is what home field advantage is. So give that as a home field advantage. If you're the home team, you get the ball first in overtime, period. And then the road team knows we got the ball late. We better score here.
Right. It incentivizes you to play more aggressively at the end of the game instead of just,
we're going to go to overtime. We're safe. We're safe. We got an overtime. Well, guess what? You're not safe because it comes down to a 50% proposition of a coin. And there's no, let's be clear. Is there a strategy behind picking heads or tails? Can we just answer that question?
Tails never fails unless it's heads.
Exactly. So why are we letting it come down to that? Just stop making it more complicated. Just the coin flip is what makes it ridiculous because it's not based in football.
You are a freaking genius. Again, your answer is so simple that only a genius could think of it. I mean, seriously, that is the best answer to a football problem I've heard in a really long time, Sam. I'm going to golf clap you on that one. And again, this is why everyone needs to be subscribing to Thinking Out Loud. This is the kind of thinkery that you get over there with Sammy and Andrew Siciliano. Thanks for watching. Tune into the Damon Bruce Show live on YouTube every weekday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. This is actually one thing that Larry and I have fought over because play should be banned. If that could happen, Kyle Shanahan should figure it the out and go win a Super Bowl with it. If it's that easy, that's what should happen.
You want to talk about what's fair and unfair? You want to talk about what is not really the sport?